Hello and welcome to yet another Swirlydoos chipboard altering tutorial. These tutorials are in conjunction with our April 2011 technique kit, which we aptly named Chipboard Palooza because we love working with chipboard so much. We decided to do a technique kit on some of the different ways that we can alter chipboard. So, for this particular technique, we are going to learn resist stamping, which is an absolutely fabulous technique that I learned from Michelle Grant, who is a designer for Dusty Attic chipboard. For this tutorial, you will need to get your wings, your dabber. I'm assuming that you will have some various ink pads in the colors that maybe you would like to use for your own layout, whichever colors those might be. I am also going to be needing two different stamps. I need a swirly or flourishy stamp. We call them Swirlydoos because that's what we do. And you'll also need some kind of a scripty stamp. Now, you don't have to necessarily use Swirlydoos or script. I'm just using them because that's what Michelle used and it turned out fabulous. But you could do this with any stamps, my goodness. You'll also need to get your embossing powder, clear embossing powder, not white. It is clear. And then your embossing pad. Okay, first thing we need to do is we need to get rid of the brown chipboardy color. So take our paint dabber and we are just going to make this not quite as brown. Now if you would like, you can also paint this with a gesso. Basically all you're doing is preparing it for the techniques that you're going to be using on it. And that is exactly what gesso is for. But, you know, for simplicity's sake, we have this in the kit. We'll use this. If you did not manage to get your hands on this technique kit, have no fear. This is stuff that you can do with any piece of chipboard and pretty much any white paints. Items that are in this kit we usually keep in the store. If we don't happen to have something and you absolutely have to have it, let me know. I'm always happy to bring stuff in for our girls. So I'm going to hit this with a heat gun just to dry it up a little bit. So now that that's, it's dry. What we're going to do is we are going to take our timber brown StazOn, and I'm going to stamp a scripty type stamp onto the wing. Now everybody got a script stamp in their April main kit. It is a new release stamp from Prima Marketing. We love Prima and we love new releases, and we try to keep our girls in all the newest product. So go ahead and grab that little sucker out of your stash. That will make a perfect stamp for your wing. Anyway, in case you aren't aware, I have learned that the best way to ink your stamp is to put your stamp down and use your pad. In case you were wondering what the heck I was doing, that's that. A lot of people don't know that trick. I can't recall where I learned it, but I learned it and now that's just how I do it. So, stamp on there. Just kind of put it where it needs to go and stamp it. Voila! It's beautiful! Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to emboss the wing using a flourish stamp. So I shall remove the script, find the flourish. Excuse my block, it's well used, not very well cleaned. Okay, and I do the same with the embossing ink. This is Emboss It from Ranger. I found that this is pretty well the best stuff I can find. Maybe I just stopped looking after I found it because it actually worked. Anyway, I get that nice and goopy. That is a technical term. And then I'm just going to kind of figure out where I want some flourishes to be, how I think they're best going to go with the movement of the wing. And I'm gonna put that right there. Tray that I love so much because it helps me bring in my mess. And I'm going to put some clear embossing powder just kind of all over. Make sure we get that entire area that we just hit with the Emboss It pad and stamp. Bang off the excess. You really can't see where that stamp was. Trust me, it's there, and I'm going to go ahead and emboss it using my heat gun. If you're not familiar with embossing or heat embossing, we do have a tutorial on that. I believe Bonnie did that tutorial for us, and that's in the tutorial section of our website. We have a ton of fabulous tutorials in there from some really talented artists, so if you have a few moments, check it out. There's lots of cool stuff in there. Okay, so that's heated up. My wing is bending a bit. This is the Peeled Paint Distress Ink from Ranger. And I'm just going to start off the wing on the non-stick mat. And I'm just going to kind of, in little circles, just kind of drag that paint in just a little bit. And you can see where the embossed flourish acts as a resist. The paint will not color that. I'm just going to kind of go around it. My goal is not to cover the entire wing. I will wipe, give it a little wipe here and there, and that's going to just make sure that any residual ink that may have been sitting on top of the embossing gets wiped away. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the walnut stain and my blending tool, which we have learned we cannot live without, and I'm just very, very, very slightly going to hit these edges. Just enough to give it a barely distressed, barely worn look. Like I said, you're going to start off the piece and move on to the piece. I don't know why, but that's what Tim Holt says, so we listen. And you can make this as light or as dark as you would like. Any colors that you would like. You do not need to use these colors. It's very pretty, it's very subtle, and could you imagine this in any other colors that might be kind of complementary to the project that you're working on? Nice. I like to ink. I like definition, and I think that running a very dark ink pad along the edge just adds more definition. So I will take my Stays On in the Timber Brown, and I will just kind of run this along the edges. And that's going to help give the piece a little bit of definition. And you just want to hold it very slightly on there so you can see that it's definitely kind of blending in with the walnut stain ink that we blended in, only this is going to be a darker, sharper brown, and it's just going to give it that little bit of definitive edge that sometimes we need to have on our projects, excuse me, it's late. And that's what we're going to come up with. Look, magically, there's two. That's what we're going to come up with, and that is a really, really cool, easy, dimensional technique to use on chipboard, and you can use it on any kind of chipboard. It doesn't have to be a wing, it doesn't have to be something big, it can be something delicate, it could be something, you know, intricate. You don't even have to use it on chipboard. This is a great technique to use on just your papers, any embellishments that you're creating. And we're very thankful to Michelle Grant from Dusty Attic for sharing this with us. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you use it.